All right, Patrice, over to you. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I thought I had unmuted myself and clearly I didn't. So we are off to the races. Fellows nomination process webinar. Welcome everyone. Thank you for all of the interest. It looks like we've got 28 people in here. That's fabulous. As a reminder, this webinar is required for all nominees and nominators. We are recording the webinar, so if you know someone who wasn't able to make it for whatever reason, they will be able to go back and look at this afterwards. And please refer to this as you need to throughout the application process. If you can't quite remember something, this can be a memory jogger. Next slide. Okay, quick overview of what we're going to cover today. The fellows role. Many of you I see on here are already fellows and obviously know this, but we'll cover that. We'll go through the nomination form, the updated calendar, and then the review phases. Next slide. There we go. So becoming a fellow used to strictly be a recognition of your support of and service to SAME. We have very much moved away from that. And the focus on becoming a fellow really is a new commitment. It's not the end of your SAME journey. It is not something that you do to be rewarded for your service to the society. It's really a recommitment to serving SAME. So I want you to really think about why you want to be nominated. The Fellows Charge really does speak to what being a fellow is all about. It's about mentorship and support of the society and its mission and strategic plan. Many of you have heard that we're going to be rolling out a new strategic plan. It boils down into 3 very easy to remember Ds. Those are develop people, drive partnerships, and deliver solutions. Everything that we do should be in support of those 3 focus areas. Next slide. So I want to emphasize that it's really important to follow the format that we ask you to follow. We had 39 packages last year. That is a lot of information to store, to try to score and review. Everybody on the AOF XC scores every one of those packages. Those packages need to reflect what you want us to know about your service. Tell us your story, please, using our format of challenge, effort, and impact. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. This really, really helps us as we evaluate your nomination package. So yes, you may have been an SAME member for 10 years, but do you have 10 years of engaged, impactful service? That is the question. 10 years of membership is a definite go, no-go criteria. If you don't have 10 years of SAME membership, you are definitely not eligible. Please be sure that you check with your SAME record to see what it shows for your membership. Those 10 years do not necessarily need to be consecutive, although in many cases they are. If you have gaps, that is not necessarily a deal breaker. I would suggest if you do have gaps that you give us a quick explanation of what that gap was about. It's not required, but it does help us as we are reviewing the package to understand what those gaps were all about. Again, we're looking for active engagement. This is not, I've been the post treasurer for 15 years and we never bounced a check. While that is very admirable, we are looking for more than that. So what is the impact of what you did? This is key to discuss the so what for us. You'll see this at various points in the nomination, specifically talking about the impact that you specifically had for your unit, your company, or the SAME position you held. I'm not saying you can't be part of a team effort, but what we really want to know is what did you specifically do? Next slide. So the nomination form. Reach out to the SAME National Office if you have any questions about your 10 years of membership. Again, we're looking at your SAME record, and the membership's got to match what the record says. If there are issues, please reach out and work with the national staff to get things corrected if there is a problem. As I mentioned earlier, you can have a break in your membership. It does not necessarily have to be continuous membership. Again, if you have any questions, this is a go, no go criteria. So you've really got to make sure that this SAME membership database reflects what you think your membership is. If we cannot determine that you've got 10 years of membership at the very least, that is an automatic no-go. Both the nominator and the nominee must affirm that they have either attended this webinar or have watched the recording. This is on the honor system, but please, please watch this webinar if you are not able to participate. If you know somebody who's planning to put in a package and they are not available today, that's fine, but please tell them to watch the video. I also want to make a note that the nominator must be a fellow. No exceptions on that. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back one, please. Oh, sorry. Never mind. Next slide. I got myself lost in my pages here. So, fellows action statement. We have moved this forward in the form to emphasize its importance. We used to call it the commitment statement, but we've moved to an action statement. This is kind of like your kickoff to being a fellow. We're looking for a fairly focused activity that reflects your passion in SAME, whatever that might be. This action statement doesn't necessarily mean you can't do more or additional things. Talk about that a bit more later. These will be posted on the website. They'll be shared with the board. They're read at the investiture. And we are also working to make these available to various levels of leadership throughout SAME to include the COIs. We want to make connections and work to help each other out. The wording of this isn't likely to be a make or break for a nomination package, but please be prepared to work with us if you are selected, and we request that you make some changes to your action statement. As I mentioned, we moved this forward to emphasize the importance. While we do take these seriously, please don't stroke out over it. It's not worth getting an ulcer. What we're looking for is what, how, and ideally when. SMART goals, you guys have all heard that term before. The when is not necessarily as important as the what and how. And while we're not going to necessarily grade you or kick you out of the society if you don't follow through on your action statement, you should be able to say at some point that you fulfilled your action statement. Please, take these seriously. We expect that you're going to act on them. Again, this is sort of a kickoff to your next phase of SAME membership. If you're selected as a fellow, you can expect an action right away when you're notified of your selection if your commitment statements needs revision. These do need to be your statements, but we also want them to be pretty concise. And again, we want them to be fairly focused. Don't try to be creative with flowery statements and run-on sentences. We don't score these based on how pretty they sound, but on the content of what's there. As honorable as it is, please don't tell me that you're going to solve world peace. Also, don't feel like you need to limit your activity within SAME to this statement. Again, if you want to do more than what's in your action statement, knock yourself out, that's great. But we're looking for something that's fairly concise, that sort of is your start to your next phase of SAME membership and commitment. You also don't need to completely have the steps to accomplish this nailed down necessarily, but we want to get a tangible sense of what you want to do and how you intend to do that. So again, 2 sentences to capture this, but again, be fairly specific with it. I'm going to give you an example of a very broad and unfocused statement. I will strive to be a leader among leaders to SAME and strongly advocate the mission and strategic goals of educating and developing our members. Not saying that we don't want people who feel this way, but this tells me nothing about what you actually plan to do. Are you going to increase opportunities to get PDHs? Are you going to mentor 3 young professionals? Are you going to increase money to support attending conferences for scholarships? what is it that you want to do? Here's a much more focused statement. I will reinvigorate the XYZ post-scholarship program by expanding support to include 3 universities in the XYZ area and increase our donations from $15,000 to $30,000 annually in the next 2 years. Again, we want to try to have some measurability of these. Next slide. So, service to SAME, please follow the directions in terms of word limit and format. Be specific and concise. Lots of more words is not necessarily better. This is historically the most difficult criteria for the review committee to score, but it's critical to the nomination process. I mean, you're going to be a fellow of SAME, so makes sense, right? That we want to know what you've done in your service to SAME. We've changed this a little bit over the last couple of years. We've combined what used to be 3A and 3B into one. The intent is to make it easier for the nominee to clearly present their information. One of the most difficult parts of scoring this is what years to assign credit for. Please, please, please use month and year for the duration of your position. I know sometimes it's calendar year, but sometimes it goes from, 1 October to 30 September or 1 July to 30 June. So please give us the month and year. It really helps us as we're trying to figure this out. You may have been in a role, let's say a board member for 15 years, but all you did was attend meetings. We need to see maybe that for 7 of those years, you led the mentoring program in your role as a board member, or for 3 of those years, you served as liaison to the local student chapter, engaged with them regularly. If you don't clearly show the reviewers what years you were impactful, active, you're not going to get credit. Again, I love people that I've been the treasurer for 20 years. We need those kind of folks, but they're not necessarily fellows worthy. So again, I don't want to take those folks lightly, but again, not fellows level. We did have some internal discussion about a Patriot credit consideration. Some of you may have heard about that. I will tell you that we got quite a bit of feedback from both retired senior military officers who are fellows, as well as from regional fellows POCs, that this is not necessary. The perception is that there is not a barrier to becoming a fellow. So at this time, we're not moving forward with that. You just need to put the time in supporting the society and document what you did and how it was impactful. Again, challenge, effort, impact. So next slide. So challenge, effort, impact. Like any proposal, give us your information in our format, please. Spell it out, make it easy for the committee to see your good work. Challenges. How does your post participate in events with other professional associations? Or how does your post offer programs that align with streamer criteria and generate attending interest? Efforts. What did you specifically do? Again, not that you can't be part of a team, but what did you do on that team? An example. Engage the post with SMPS and ACEC for a joint event. This included federal, state, and local owners and stakeholders, or we teamed with NSPE in an annual AEC joint association event. Led programs with USACE or AFCEC participation annually. So again, what was the effort? What did you do? And then the impact. Give us the what, give us the why, give us the why should we care. Maybe you formed relationships and alliances with other professional associations. You built relationships between private sector and government. You helped to influence and move forward industry government engagement. What was that impact? Maybe you mentored young members. Maybe you helped meet the streamer requirements and your post got distinguished post. These are just some examples. Not everybody, as I said, is going to become a fellow, and that's okay. We need to clearly understand what you did and why it matters. How did you actively engage and support the society? Next slide. Service to the profession. Again, follow the directions, word limit, format, etc. Be concise and specific. More is not better. Again, we combine what used to be 4A and 4B into just 4. And, again, this is to hopefully make it easier for you all to fill out the form. This is not a job description and it should not read like one. So please don't give us your job description. We did make some changes to directions to make it more clear. We want to see what part you had in a company, not necessarily what your company did. What did you do? You can include publications, but please pick the 5 that you believe are most pertinent to the profession. Do not please give us 3 pages of publications. That is a waste of everybody's time. Not that I'm not going to be impressed that you had 3 pages of publications, but please limit it to 5. We also want to understand the mix of civic and professional activities as they relate to the engineering profession. Part of this criteria we see people struggle with most is the mix of industry and civic. The ideal mix includes, some industry, probably, obviously your job, as well as civic, something outside of your job that lends to the SAME mission. You might have been a Boy Scout leader, but that does not necessarily equate to SAME mission or profession necessarily. If you are a Boy Scout leader responsible for guiding scouts to get their engineering badge, that relates to the profession, and we want to hear about that. Many people do only have industry job-related items, which is perfectly acceptable. But if you do have some civic activities that are related to the profession, we would like to hear about them. Again, we're looking at, the whole person. Next slide. So for all of these, please provide the name and description of the service you provided or the awards you received with an explanation of the activities that were recognized. Some of these we're going to automatically recognize if it's an SAME award, but others, and even some of the industry ones, ASCE awards, NSPE awards, we might recognize those. But please give us a little bit about what that award was and what you did that was recognized. If you include a group award, please indicate your specific level of involvement. Again, what did you do? And while we do want to know about military applicants, military awards, please pick the top 3 and you get to pick what you consider the top 3. I'm not going to tell you what those are supposed to be. Again, board service, volunteer work. This does not necessarily need to be related to SAME or engineering. This is community civic involvement. This is where you can put other board service, you can put church activities, church involvement, food bank involvement, those sorts of things in your community. Again, we really want to get a sense of the whole person. Next slide. So we've gotten feedback about why do we have these knowledge questions? Fellows are supposed to be the most active and engaged members and mentors within the society, and they need to have correct and relevant information regarding the entities and operations of SAME. So that's why we ask these. If you tried to find the answer on the SAME website and are having difficulty, you can phone a friend. This is not a closed book test. Please do not just cut and paste from the SAME website. We can tell if there's funny formatting and the fonts are all wacky. We are not trying. Oh, Kathy says phone a friend does not include SAME staff. So please don't call Kathy or Mike Ware, but you can ask your post president. You can ask other fellows, your RVP. We are not trying to trick you with these questions. Again, you can ask a friend, a colleague, if you're having difficulty finding the answer. Why is this important? Fellows need to be knowledgeable about all aspects of SAME. At a minimum, be able to direct folks to our website to find the information that they are looking for. I do suggest that you review the SAME.org website to see all of the information that is out there for all of us to digest, share, and know what's going on in the society. Citation. Because these may be used for marketing, please spend a bit of time here, but we will work to polish these as needed. Again, don't get an ulcer over this. It's not that critical. But, please don't just slap something together. Next slide. So endorsements. So we've had some people say, hey, you should get points for that. We've had a discussion about it. We're not giving points. However, again, this gives us more of that whole person concept. The RFPOC is key at the start of the process, and we are asking them to do some initial screening. Again, while I don't want to discourage anybody, the expectation should not be that I've been an SAME member for 10 years, and so it's time for me to be nominated. I can tell you that most fellows were active in SAME for more than 10 years before they were nominated. Not out of the realm of possibility that you're 10 years, and if you started and you were active the whole time, great, good on you. But if your RFPOC says you aren't ready, please accept that graciously and ask for recommendations of what else you can do and or what is a realistic expectation. For the fellows that are watching, if you're considering nominating someone, contact that respective RFPOC early to have the discussion. Those folks we are counting on to be good judges of whether a person's ready. Again, it's not a foul. It's not going to look bad on you if somebody tells you, hey, you're not ready. You know, you need to give it another year, another couple of years. For nominees, if you do not know your RVP at all, maybe you're not ready. If you don't know the RVP, that tells me that you have not been involved enough. And while we're not going to exclude those who have only served at the post level, your package is going to be scored. What does RFPOC stand for? Oh, RFPOC is a Regional Fellows Point of Contact. Sorry about that. I'm using acronyms here when I should be spelling them out. So RFPOC, Regional Fellows Point of Contact, and RVP is the Regional Vice President. Again, if you've only served at the post level, that's not necessarily a hit, but you know, you're probably going to have a much better chance if you have done something at the regional or the national level. There are lots of ways to be involved. The communities of interest are a fabulous way to get involved at the regional and international level. We can address alternates for endorsements on a case-by-case basis, but this has to be done before the submission. Please feel free to work with your nominator to reach out to Kathy off with any kind of concerns, and we will sort it out. Again, we're not assigning points to the endorsement letters, but it does give us more of a sense of the whole person. Next slide. So the updated calendar. So we have shifted the calendar a bit based on feedback that trying to submit fellows nomination packages at the end of the fiscal year was stressful. So we have listened to that and we have adjusted the calendar. The dates in bold are hard and fast dates to national. The others are set by the Regional Fellows Point of Contact, and national is not involved in those. We have given recommendations for some of those mid-August, mid-October, mid-November. Your RFPOC will be the one who will set the specific dates for that they want to see these things. The no-go-no that I mentioned earlier, RFPOCs, here's where you play that critical role. If somebody isn't quite ready, we're relying on you to make that call. They certainly can pursue at a later time. September 6th is a hard deadline. This is a name-only list to the national office of folks that you intend to nominate. If you miss this deadline, the nominee has got to wait until next year. You can always submit that name and then not submit the package. If you submit the name and then you kind of look a little deeper and decide maybe they're not ready, that's fine. You can always change your mind and decide not to submit. Regional Fellows POCs can take someone off the list if they don't get appropriate input from the nominator. So again, you guys have got to be talking with that RFPOC. December 6th is the due date for the complete packages to SAME National Office. And then we will then meet in probably early January. The AOFXC meets in person and we combine scores, we rack and stack, and then we talk about that cut line. And trust me, it is a lot of discussion. We take this very seriously. and are very thoughtful about those decisions that we make. The end of February is when we anticipate providing results to the nominees and nominators. Might be earlier than that, but certainly by the end of the month, we should have those results to you. I also want to add that while it is not on this calendar, the 25th of July is going to be the next webinar in the Journey to Fellows series. We specifically had that about a month after this webinar. The intent is to have breakout rooms on specific topical areas. So if after we have this webinar, if there are areas that you maybe want to do a deeper dive into, maybe, you know, what does impactful service look like, whatever that might be, if you will send your request for specific topics to Kathy Off by the 23rd of July, that would be fabulous. Again, 25th of July is the next webinar. I believe it's at noon Eastern, and it'll be a webinar. So, next slide. So phase one, again, regional fellows, POCs, buck stops with you. This is your official responsibility. Defer if somebody's not ready. RFPOCs are getting, we're really looking at them to address nominations that are lacking. Again, 6th September is the submission deadline for getting those names to national. Next slide. So phase two, 6th December is when we get all those packages. Kathy does her part and compiles all those and gets those on a shared Google Drive so that we can all download them. And the AOFXC start their scoring. Kathy provides us an Excel sheet to record our scores. The national staff will do that go, no go in terms of the 10 years of membership. Our goal is no go packages in this phase. They should have all been screened out earlier. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the 8 members of the XC will review the full packets. Again, we had probably 39 last time. It is a lot of work, trust me. And just to review the scoring, the action statements, 15 points, service to SAME, 40 points, service to the profession, 30 points, awards and honors, 5 points, society knowledge, 10 points. Again, endorsement letters, we don't assign points to them, but they're still valuable for giving us a sense of the whole person. While most of this is pretty objective, some of the scoring has a subjective part to it. Again, we don't do this in a vacuum. We do have an in-person meeting to make that final cut line. And there is a lot of discussion that happens at those meetings. Trust me, we take this very seriously. Next slide. So once we have done the rack and stack and recommended a cut line, we do make that recommendation to the SAME president. They can and have asked for additional review just above and just below the cut line. That is certainly within their realm of authority to ask us to do that, and we have done that at least once that I'm aware of. The NLT is not typically consulted, but if there's any question about a candidate, as the chair, I may consult them. Non-selects will be debriefed with either a phone call or a Zoom Teams call. We do that individually. And I think that is all for this slide. Next slide. So the XC's primary objective is to strengthen the academy with new fellows that are committed to remaining involved and serving. Format and word count do matter. Being worried and not following the format just makes it harder on the reviewers to review the packets and to understand the content of some of those packets, which may result in less points being awarded. Again, packets not meeting the basic requirements are going to be eliminated. Our goal with the packets that we get are that there are none that get eliminated. We are looking for historic impact and future commitment to being involved. What have you done and what do you aspire to do? Again, a reminder about the webinar in the Journey to Fellow series, July 25th, noon Eastern. Again, if you have topics that you would like us to delve into a little deeper, please send those to Kathy by the 23rd of July so that we can effectively prepare for that. Next slide. So, extenuating circumstances, Kathy Off is the font of all knowledge. She's a fabulous resource. Beth Dersher sends her regrets that she couldn't be here in person to present. As the new vice chair internal, she will be leading our scoring and review process. So she also is available if you have questions. So next slide. I think that wraps it up. So I will open it now for questions. I would ask if you have a question to raise your hand. And I will ask you to turn your screen, your camera on. Take a quick peek in the chat box if there's anything there. Oh, Kathy says try to have the topics to her earlier than the 23rd. Make sure we have prepared content to address your subject areas. Okay, yeah. I don't see any hands raised. Yes, Josh McClure. Go ahead and put your camera on and take yourself off mute.
Yes, thanks, Patrice. I wanted to just explore as a regional fellows point of contact here in Texas. Last year we had a candidate who, in my opinion, was a fairly good candidate, but she just barely had 10 years of active membership. So, I recommended, you're probably not going to get in this round, but went ahead and let her submit anyway. Endorsed it. I felt she was worthy of it, but was, probably marginal from the experience standpoint. So
Okay.
Is that an acceptable route to go? If you think that they've got maybe a 50-50 shot or a little less of making it, to let it go ahead and go through and let you all make the decision rather than me being the one saying, no, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's just a really weak, again, I don't want to poo-poo only post-level involvement. But if they've only had post-level involvement, I might encourage them to look to maybe do something on a COI or, something with a regional symposium or something like that. Get involved in helping to plan and execute a regional symposium. So again, we're not trying to be exclusionary, but we also, want to be sure that we really are bringing in those folks that truly have been committed and had impactful service. I hope, does that help?
Yeah, I think so. I just more wanted to say when we think it's marginal, should we go ahead and let it go through rather than say, absolutely not, I'm not gonna submit this. I had another who I was very confident wasn't going to get in. And so I said, hey, you need to do this before we actually submit it. And so he was fine with that. But when it's kind of marginal and they appear to meet the requirements, my opinion is submit it and
Yeah,
let it go in.
yeah.
And just let them know in advance. I don't think you're going to make it, but and here's why. But I would, I'm okay if you want to go ahead and submit anyway.
Yeah. I think have a conversation and use your judgment. So,
okay.
but thanks for asking. Brandy, you have your hand up.
Greetings. Yes. With that, okay. With that, one of the things I was wondering, what's the best way as we're writing this information to sort of put forth our work effort in regard to the profession and SAME? That's sort of been one of the areas that I've been trying to grasp and collate over.
So again, we encourage you to use kind of the challenge. What was the challenge? What were you trying to address? Your effort. What did you actually do to try to address that and then impact? What, so what happened as a result of what you did to try to solve that challenge? Does that help?
And yes, I understand the CCAR and everything, but I guess I was just trying to grasp as to, because it says, what you've done to support the profession and going forward. I mean, I know I'm an engineer, so I think that helps me out, but I just want to make sure that I'm looking at it towards the organization and what they're trying to get out of us.
Yeah, so again, I think, going back to the strategic plan, we haven't officially adopted the new strategic plan, but we're going to, and Kathy, I think that's beginning of January is when we officially adopt that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not quite there yet. So we're still under the old strategic plan, which had 5 pillars, but the new one, and so for folks that'll be for next year, well, let me think about this. So if we're not going to adopt it until January, we're still technically under the old strategic plan. So, again, look at the strategic plan. Kathy, do you have some thoughts about this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because we're kind of in a between, we're ending the previous strategic plan, we're getting ready to start the new one, and we're gonna be promoting the new one, even though it doesn't go into effect until 2030. You're not gonna be dinged for referring to the old one or referring to the new one. They're very similar. We have this very similar overall mission and vision. So it's not like we're completely changing direction. So if
Right.
you reference the old one or you reference the new one with your impact, your challenge and effort and impact, that's perfectly fine.
And on the profession side, you can talk about either things that you did in a particular area, whatever your technical area is, or if you were involved in some kind of cross-organizational synergy. Again, industry government engagement is something that is always going to be an overarching sort of theme that we're looking for. How do we connect industry and government and allow for engagement? Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Good. All right, Josh, your hand's up again.
I was just going to maybe help answer her question with respect to the profession. I know some of the things I've looked at when reviewing people's applications is make sure you're talking about what the impacts of your projects are, not just your job description or your role, but what projects did you accomplish? How do they benefit the communities you're serving or the clients you're serving and that type of thing? So, I was fortunate to have some regional and statewide projects that I worked on. So it was a little bit easier to talk about if you're doing, a bunch of building air conditioners or something. It might be a little bit harder, but talk about what those clients do, what the impact, the importance of their duties or their missions are, and how what you're doing helps them accomplish those missions. So that's kind of how I look at it and how I try to customize people's responses to that, to move it from a job description to what's the impact of your role with the clients and the greater society.
Good, great point. Yeah, we really don't want to know that you increased your company's bottom line by X%. That is not what we want to know about. We want to know about the projects you did, and it could be that you did a project for, I don't know, a school district. What was the impact that project had on the school district? Can be, something as simple as that. Other questions? Okay. Oh, Russ, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't hear you touch on this, Patrice, but I heard there's a magic cut line. What's the magic cut line?
Basically that is the line, anybody above the cut line is going to be recommended for inclusion as fellows. Anybody below the cut line will be deferred until a future time.
Sorry, maybe I could have worded that a little bit better. Are you know, how does there's no magic number, right? We're not.
No, there
Yeah.
is no magic number. It changes each year. It is, again, a discussion with the entire XC about where we feel is the right cut line. So
Yeah.
it's not like if you score above an X number, you're going to be in, and if you're below, you're out. That can vary from year to year.
And I think one of the other rumors that we've addressed a number of times is that we're not comparing package A to package B. All of these sort of stand on their own.
No, yes, they all sort of stand on their own. Again, each of the 8 members will, for each of the sections, they'll give, how many out of 15 points for the action statement, how many out of 40 points for service to SAME, how many out of 30 points to service to the profession. So we each individually score, and then those scores are compiled and combined and racked and stacked. And then when we get together, we have that discussion about where the cut line should be. Other questions? Check the chat again real quick. Okay, so I think I don't see anything else in the chat. Okay, last reminder, if you be thinking about this, maybe start looking at the form. If you have somebody that you're wanting to be nominated, talk with your RFPOC. If you have certain topics that you'd like us to delve into a little bit more, please get those to Kathy. Again, the webinar is on the 25th of July. So, maybe back up a week, at least by the Monday. I believe that's a Thursday, at least by the Monday of that week. If not the prior Friday, to be able to get those topics to Kathy so that we can effectively address them. Charlie, you have your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So where will we find the recording of this session? Because I've got 3 or 4 people I'm working with, and and none of them are on the session. I want to encourage them to see the recording and make the time to look at it. And
Kathy, I'm going to let you answer that. Oh, it
Sure.
says
Yeah. Yeah, the recording will be on the AOF webpage. And I'm just gonna share my screen really quick for you all. This is the AOF webpage right here. And the recording will be on this page, but also I wanted to draw your attention to how to nominate a fellow. You go down here, how to nominate a fellow. This is where the recording will be. And then we have the slides right here, and the new form is up. The nomination form for the class of 2025. And there haven't been any point changes or anything like that. It's really just, we added some words for clarity in some of the descriptions, and that's about it. So you can start looking at that form starting today.
excellent. Thank you, Kathy.
super. Any other questions? All right, I don't see any more hands that went up. I'm going to give you guys back 14 minutes of your day. Hooray. Again, I am available. Beth Dersher, Kathy Off. We all are available to engage, answer your questions. Have a super day and a great weekend. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, Patrice.
You're welcome.